All right, y'all. So Malcolm X is going to tell you what he thinks about white liberals here. But it doesn't really matter the color. If you're a liberal, it's pretty much the same thing.
There are many whites who are trying to solve the problem, but you never see them going under the label of liberals. That white person that you see calling himself a liberal is the most dangerous thing in the entire Western Hemisphere. He's the most deceitful. He's like a fox. And a fox is always more dangerous in the forest than the wolf. You can see the wolf coming. You know what he's up to. But the fox will fool you. He comes at you with his mouth shaped in such a way that even though you see his teeth, you think he's smiling and you take him for a friend.
I must emphasize at the outstart that the Honorable Elijah.
Okay, and so that was Malcolm there talking about liberals and whatnot. And so now I got a black liberal here. We're going to break down a conversation between another black liberal and a leftist, a black leftist, Breonna Joy Gray. So this is Eric Dyson in the window here, and let's call him Stephan here in the chair. So we got Stephan breaking down Breonna Joy Gray, a leftist, and Michael Eric Dyson, a liberal. So liberal breaking down a leftist and a liberal.
In good faith that they were making a choice, whether or not you think it was right or not, but in good faith they made choices that they thought had the greatest potential to win. Back to your point earlier, that had the greatest potential to make a difference in it. Because
she knows, she knows he just made a good point. He made a good point that she brought up. Hey, what is the statistical, the strategic way to win, and not just throw up who we want to throw up because we think he's an amazing person, which Bernie Sanders is. But they made a calculation on Joe Biden.
So I'm gonna go with this. If I haven't, well, I've watched this video before, but it's been a few days. But anyway, if they're talking about Bernie Sanders, talking about the best person to win, Bernie Sanders would have beaten Trump in 2016, 2020, or this year, 2024. Bernie Sanders would have ran circles around Trump in any debate. But he beat Hillary Clinton. They had to cheat him out. He was beating Joe Biden, and then Barack Obama did some crazy stuff that I didn't even know was possible to get everybody to drop out and have Jim Clyburn back Joe Biden. So it took a lot for Bernie to lose or get beaten, but he would have beaten Trump. That's not why they calculated. The Democrats would rather have Trump be president than Bernie Sanders, by far. They are slightly right, if not far right, and they are more close to Trump than they are to Bernie Sanders, a populist, a progressive, or anyone on the left. Democrats are not progressive, and anyone who backs the Democratic Party cannot call themselves a progressive at all.
Biden is going to win. Whatever numbers or statistics they look at, he's.
Sorry about the pauses. I'm trying not to have an echo. I might just have an echo a little bit. But anyway, Joe Biden would not have won if it wasn't for COVID. Joe Biden was a terrible candidate. But because Trump handled COVID terribly, yeah, Joe Biden did win. But he was going to lose this time, right? So they threw in Kamala. If they would have just...
He's going to win. That's what they did with Hillary. That's what they did with Joe Biden. And that's what they did with Harris, is they thought this was their pathway of winning. So, and obviously they failed. But, all right, guys, so we're going to watch this debate / conversation. I don't really think it's a debate, but they're, a part of the Democratic Party. I believe Breonna's more, progressive than Michael Eric.
Breonna Joy Gray is not part of the Democratic Party, not at all. She will say she's not. She's a leftist, a progressive, maybe a populist, but she is not in the Democratic Party whatsoever in any way.
Eric Dyson, but Michael Eric Dyson is a amazing person. I read probably 4 of his books, and I know he has a lot more. This is amazing, a real intellectual, and he can actually talk that talk. You know what I'm saying? But you know, I don't want to spend too much time because this is like a 30-minute video, and I think everything that they're talking about is interesting and important. And like I said, like, if you want to further educate yourself, you need to listen to people that are like-minded and even more advanced when it comes to, you know, policies and political strategies and things of that nature. So let's go ahead and take a listen.
You keep asking, I think understandably, the Green Party has no chance. Why should I even care? It's a chicken and the egg situation, Dr. Dyson. Somebody has to start fighting. And I would argue, I want to put this on the table because I don't know, this hasn't been put out there yet, that it is not just symbolic to vote for the Green Party in this election or any election. If they get 5% of the vote, they can get millions of dollars in federal funding that helps them get automatic ballot access, and also some money to start to try to assert themselves against a Democratic Party that is able to fundraise $1 billion in the 100-odd days of Kamala Harris's campaign. And by the way, squander it all so that Kamala Harris is now sending out emails begging people to give her money so that she can forgive her debt. Well, what about the 44 million Americans who Joe Biden promised debt forgiveness to? Sorry, if we use the same logic here, it's not fair for us to have to pay for your debt when other people have paid off of theirs. That's what the Democratic Party talking heads have been telling the 44 million Americans, including a disproportionate number of Black Americans who have been suffering under the yoke of student debt.
So one thing, Kamala Harris brought in over $1 billion in 3 months. Donald Trump got, I don't know how much money from Elon Musk every month he was saying, but $1 billion in 3 months. If we can bring that type of money together, we don't even need politicians. We should just bring that money together and then put it in the poor communities and just have them do the thing, like pay teachers, pay coaches, pay people to work with kids and adults that need to be worked with, that should be decent paying jobs. But a coach isn't a decent paying job, or a teacher's not a decent paying job because they say they don't make stuff, but they make great adults, right? They make the adults who make stuff or whatever. Like, it's nuts, man. Like, if we took the money that we just gave politicians and just put it into schools and each other, that'd be it. It'd be good.
Not to mention medical debt, not to mention trade school debt, not to mention housing debt, not to mention the cost of living crisis, all of these things, which you never hear the Democrats talking passionately about. What they talk passionately about is how Donald Trump is a fascist.
Which he is.
Yeah.
How he's an unethical person.
Which he is.
And how, I guess, representation matters.
Wait, okay, hold on.
So, I mean, we're only 1 minute and 32 seconds in, but oh my God, she laid the sauce heavy on that one, but she's right. You know what I'm saying? And you know, they're gonna kind of get into the whole third party conversation a little more, but I don't feel like the third party even wants to be a third party. Just seeing how they were moving before this election and even now, like they just kind of gone, or at least I'm not seeing much of them. Like, be active, be in my face.
They are active. They're active, but people don't cover them other than during the election. So during the election, they get a little bit of coverage so they can say, oh, they're ruining the vote for Kamala or the Democrats or whoever. The Libertarians are ruining the vote for the Republicans. But then in the other 3 years, when it's off election, they're not covered. People like this don't cover them. CNN, obviously, Fox and all them don't cover them, MSNBC. They only talk about them in the 8 months or year, whatever the running period is for the presidential race. And they talk about them in poor terms, that they're messing stuff up, this and that, whatever. But no, pay attention to them. Look at Jill Stein and look at Howie Hawkins and look at all the other Green Party, Butch, what's his last name? He's the newer one. But Butch, watch the interview with the Breakfast Club. If you watch the interview with the Breakfast Club and tell me that the Green Party doesn't know what they're doing or aren't on their P's and Q's, then we're just on a different level then.
24/7 for 4 years straight, and that's how you build some relationship, some sort of trust factor. But if you just popping up and I only hear your name, a couple like a year before election, then that's not gonna work for folks like myself. So
but if you don't pay attention, that's
but
your
she's right
fault.
though. She right.
So wait a minute. I want to go back to what you just said. Then, first of all, I believe all that's true. So you got me.
Sure,
there.
but
Look,
it's not
back to
motivating
this
voters.
Well, wait, hold on. Let me say this. So, to me, racism is a dry run for fascism. Everything that people are worried about in fascist politics have been practiced on black people first, in terms of not being able to vote, not having an ability to govern the institutions that govern you, to be able to control them. All the stuff we're concerned about, the kind of teleological analysis of what the ultimate end of fascism eventuates in, and how that corrupts the possibility of democratic politics and the ability of people to actually exist without the interference of a top-down hierarchical imposition on their lives of values that are essentially foreign to them. Okay, good. But I want to go back to what you said. Look, it's like what I used to say when I was teaching early hip hop stuff. And they were like, well, it's the independents, out here, I'm selling my CDs out my car versus Sony. Bro, the moment you are selling your CD out the back of your car, I don't know, Too Short, whoever, you in the game. The question is, to what degree do you find yourself implicated in some of the transactions that are able to yield the thing you desire? So when I hear Miss Gray talking about, if we get up to 5%, and that will automatically trip, the mechanisms that will get you in the game. What you're doing is making an analysis about when and where you enter. Sorry, to deploy that term, that you get in. And, if we do it at this particular amount, this will happen, this will result. You doing the same thing that others of us who have made calculations about where we enter, what we can do, how we can use a system, because that's what you're talking about. We're talking about using an extant system to fund the ultimately revolutionary, or at least subversive,
But he's anti-revolutionary. If you vote for the Democrats, that's not a revolution. You're voting to keep the same system, but maybe slightly softer. But follow this channel. I'm gonna make many videos. I'm gonna talk about fascism. I'm gonna show what the Democrats have done. Look up Kamala Harris. What is it? Stroke of my pen. Just look that up and tell me who you think a fascist is, or who's more fascist, her or Trump. Like, are you serious?
Impulses of a progressive politic in order to achieve your goal. Amen. But that's what other people are doing as
But
well.
how are they doing that, Dr. Dyson? They're not doing that. What we're hearing when we turn on MSNBC and CNN every day is why we can't have nice things. Even look, I want to come to some of the, I think, optimistic takes that have come out of this election, where people who have really defended the Democratic Party up until this point are now saying actually Bernie was right about a lot of stuff.
Right.
But before I get there, I want to say there are a lot of people who are still manufacturing consent for the Democratic Party's choices in an election that they lost. With all due respect, Joyanne Reid hopped on her show and said that Kamala Harris had run a flawless and unimpeachable campaign because Queen Latifah endorsed her, and Queen Latifah never endorses anybody.
And nothing that was true yesterday about how flawlessly this campaign was run is not true now. I mean, this really was an historic, flawlessly run campaign. Queen Latifah never endorses anyone.
One, if you look it up, Bernie Sanders is almost always right. You can look up Bernie Sanders talking about gay people in the military, look up homos in the military, Bernie Sanders. You can look up MLK Bernie Sanders and see a picture of Martin Luther King giving a speech on Capitol Hill with Bernie Sanders sitting behind him. Look up Bernie Sanders chained to a black woman. He's like 19 to 22 years old in the civil rights movement, giving a crap when he was young. Like, what did you do when you were 19 to 22 years old? You might have went to college, but did you like really fight for anything? Like Bernie Sanders was. But then, what was the next one? Hold on. What'd she just say?
It's an unimpeachable campaign because
Queen Latifah never endorses anyone.
Oh yeah, that she ran a perfect campaign. Oh my gosh. Me and my lady, we were talking after watching her for a little while. I told her I think she made a bet with somebody that when she gets asked a question, she won't answer it. Like she will talk all this stuff and walk around, but she will never ask the direct or answer the direct question. And my lady I would show her clips of her. I'd show her the question, and then Kamala going right in. It wouldn't be cut, but it just might be one question out of the interview. And my lady would be like, halfway through her answer, "What was the question again?" Like Kamala Harris did not run even a decent campaign, let alone a flawless campaign. Like that's insane to say.
She came out and endorsed. She had every prominent celebrity voice. She had the Taylor Swift, she had the Swifties, she had the Beehive. Like you could not have run a better campaign in that short period of time. And I think that's still true.
So, I mean, no, she did not run a flawless campaign. Like she ran it flawless to the elitist standards. Yeah. And maybe that's what she's talking about. But to the Democratic voters, no, by far she didn't.
So my dude can see that Stephen can see that she ran it flawless to the rich voters or the elite voters, but not to the normal voters. But he's still going to press you on the Democratic Party. Vote for the Democrats because they support the elite, but not us. Good job, Stephen.
And that's what, I've been saying, for the 2-3 months that she was running is like, she is like ignoring some of the basic stuff that we are letting her know. And she would even respond to it and fail at answering those questions. So not far or flawless by far. Like, no, don't think so.
You had the women of The View saying,
it's great. That's
a direct. That is a direct. We can insert the clip. If you wanted me to wait, I can find it and pull it up.
I'm saying, but Joy Reid got more substantive arguments.
Okay, that's what was said. What was said. The women of The View said something very similar. Nancy Pelosi is willing to sort of throw Joe Biden under the bus a little bit, but take no responsibility for a Democratic establishment that insisted for years that Joe Biden was cogent and able to lead when it is quite obvious that he was not. And that is why he had to drop out of the presidential race and hand it over to his vice president. There has still not been an accounting for that enormous campaign of misinformation against the American public litigated by the Democratic Party.
But the Democrats never hold themselves accountable, right? Like they always have an excuse. They never hold themselves accountable.
That pretends to care so much about misinformation in the media. So I resist the idea that what I am arguing for, what the left is arguing for, and what the Democratic Party is doing is the same. They are persuading voters that they are wrong. They are saying the economy is good, actually. That because the macro economy is good, you shouldn't care about the fact that your groceries are 40% higher than they were when Donald Trump was president. Whether or not it was Donald Trump's fault.
Kamala admitted that part.
What
right
part?
About the groceries and in other words.
And I understand what she's trying to relay is the Democratic Party was, I guess, trying to tell the American people, hey, life is actually better. And people are like, no, it's actually not, which both sides are true and both sides are full of shit. Like one, things are statistically better and physically better. The price of
But what no one really wants to say is that this is the system. This is how capitalism works. Prices just go up. When I was young and when I was in high school, my teachers would talk about they would go on dates with their high school sweethearts and gas was 5 cents a gallon and they could buy popcorn in a movie for 5 cents and a nickel here and a dime there or whatever, buying stuff. When I first moved out of my mother's house, I paid 33 cents a loaf of bread. And gas, when I first started driving, I wouldn't buy gas if it was over 99 cents. I would not pay 3 digits for gas. But look at it now. It's $2.50, $3.50 most places. I'm in Hawaii, so it's like $4.50 out here. But I mean, prices only go up. Look at the price of a house in 1980, 1990, 2000, 2010, 2020. Look at the price of anything in all those years, in any year. Prices go up. That is how capitalism works. It is to keep the rich wealthy and to keep the poor out. The rich will just keep getting the money trickling up and we will just keep struggling. As soon as 5 or 10 more people get a little bit of money and start to see some goodness, the capitalists will just raise the price and they'll have to pay more and they'll be back where they were. If you gotta look at the system, the Democrats are for this system. They are not for changing anything. So if you want to change something, we need to go to the Green Party, the Libertarian Party, or any other third party. The two parties, the Jones Plantation is not where it's at.
eggs everyone want to keep talking about is dramatically lower than it was 4 years ago, 5 years ago in the heat of COVID, which Trump did fumble. He did fumble. That was his fault. Not the existence of COVID-19, but just the handling of it was his fault. Let's not try to take away the responsibility from Trump. He fucked that up, without a doubt. But with the...
So what is funny, not funny, is he's correct this time. Trump did mess up COVID, right? Like, he just fast did the vaccine, and I think he started the lockdowns, right? So Trump messed up COVID and passed it on to Joe Biden, and Joe Biden just continued to mess it up, right? But the same thing happened with George Bush and the crash of 2008 when Obama won. The crash happened, and then Bush bailed out all the car companies and whatnot, and then they all just gave the money to the CEOs and this and that, didn't do anything good with it, and then when Obama got in, all this money was wasted on the car companies that they just gave to the CEOs. And so Obama just had to give them the money again and say, hey, you got to give it to your employees and this and that. Where it's crazy how Republicans will mess stuff up so bad and then Democrats will kind of fix it. But they're on the same team. This is WWE style wrestling. They're not trying to help us. They're not trying to help you. They're helping each other. They're all getting rich off of stocks and bonds and all this stupid stuff while we fight over just trying to live.
Legislation that Biden had put forward in the past 3-4 years helped the economy. So things are still, I guess, out of reach, for some for some people, which is understandable. The Democratic Party should never say life is good for you. Why are you complaining? Paraphrasing. But what they should say, and I said this before, is we know people are still hurting. And we did a lot to try to bring some of that pressure down, but we know we need to go a lot further because there's still people hurting and they can't make simple means meet. They're struggling with that. So what we need to do is go even further. And that's why, we appreciate what Biden has done for the past 3-4 years. But with Harris, she's going to go further than that.
He's kind of insane. Harris is not going to go further, wouldn't have gone further. She said that she was in all the important talks, helped make all the important decisions. Like, this is a long video. His video is 54 minutes and 42 seconds. This one here is probably getting kind of long. I'm not going to watch the whole thing now, or I'm not going to go over the whole thing now. I've watched the whole thing before. I kind of wanted to go over the whole thing, but you can see he's a liberal. He's just going to back the Democrats no matter what. And just, you know, stay informed, keep watching this channel, and you'll see why the Democrats are not what these liberals say they are. They're not good for us. They're not good for anybody. They're not good for regular people, any people. All people are regular, so they're not good for anybody.